Monday, April the 7th. Good morning and a warm welcome to your perfect day start at the morning brief. I'm Coyote Okikule. Maybe a cool welcome in this hot weather.
This very tropical weather. Welcome to the program. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
What a weekend. Not bad, really. The weekend had lots of, not the best of news, really, packed on the front pages, even going into the inside pages, going on the website and all. So it was a packed weekend, certainly, and we'll be breaking down some of those major talking points on the show this morning. Even the sports lovers didn't quite have a good weekend, and I'm not even mentioning names. But we're here on a Monday morning to ensure that you start your week on the right note, helping you to go through those big stories. But I must say that it was quite an experience last week at the Global Disability Summit. And just one thing I would say that we can learn in this part of the world is intentionality, how people are intentional about the very little things, because that's actually what adds up to the success or otherwise of a society. You understand that everybody matters, right? Sometimes people just overlook people with disability and say, you don't matter, you're not one, you're half, or something. But no, actually, they can contribute to the society. And I think that's one of the biggest differences that I have noticed, just being intentional. If we're able to get that, I think we'll do better for ourselves.
I think, again, just to add to what you said, Africa will begin to change the day we put better value on human lives. I do not think as Nigeria, as Nigerians, as Africa as a continent, we put proper value on human lives. That is a major difference. I was watching a movie, I think it's Adolescence, that I recommend for the entire police force to watch, and parents as well to watch, about a young lad who, due to self-esteem issue and several other reasons, you know, because of relationship within...
Don't give us spoilers.
No. Just decided to, you know, he committed murder. But what I'm trying to get at, what I got out of that story is the fact that you see how a young, you know, a minor in that sense, who is a suspect in a murder case, was treated with the highest level of civility. I say, no, Nigerian police left this WhatsApp group. But we can do that if we choose to do it. If you see the level of civility from every stage to like literally every step of the way, even though you're a suspect, the level of respect and the level of constitutionality, and that's why we keep shouting that we operate a constitutional democracy. If we practice any other thing, I'm not going to say the things I say. And also for parents to also watch, and young people, adolescents to watch as well, to know that your actions have a lot of impact, sometimes even beyond you. It has more impact on your parents, who begin to judge themselves and look at themselves and say, did I really raise this child well? What did I do wrong and all of that? So for me, like you said, just to corroborate what you said, it just shows how the clients in terms of global north and south appreciate human life, respect human fundamental rights at the end of the day. Because when I saw some things in the movie, I was like, this is so far from our own reality. But we can get there.
Absolutely.
It's a possibility. I can't dismiss that.
And I think that
so we're hopeful.
That's why we're here every day, week in, week out, just to ensure that we show you the good side and what is possible. And speaking of that, we're not shying away from all of the big stories. We're starting off on the program this morning with that incident in Plateau State. Now, get this. Plateau State should be in the news for things like tourism, things like agriculture, you know, human capital development, because the state has so much to offer in that sense. But that's not what's making the news about Plateau State, particularly over the weekend and this morning. And we're getting started with that one. An attack by gunmen in Bokos local government area of the state has left at least 52 people dead. And that happened last week. So we'll be taking a look at how the security forces can bring an end to these incessant attacks and killings. We'll also be taking a look at the humanitarian response to this issue.
It's very sad. It just brings me back that sad memory of Christmas Eve in 2023. You remember?
Yeah. Still
in Plateau State, that carnage on the plateau. Well, we also understand a few things about the weather on the program today. Kade has been complaining. I know why. He left another client to come to his regular, and it's been quite difficult. So from there, we leave Plateau and go to understanding the weather, how you can cope with the situation in terms of cold and all of that. But hey, I know what you're seeing is on Plateau under siege But we'll move from there to the issue of the weather, because there's a lot to discuss as far as weather is concerned.
Absolutely. And while we keep tabs on that, because it looks like there's a lot of things flying around, Jeffrey, so we want to talk about your health, but we talk politics as well. Oh yes, we head over to party politics and we'll be trying to answer an important question. Should political party constitutions dictate their internal affairs, or should court rulings have overriding authority in resolving party disputes? I think it's quite clear what it should be. But over the past few years, not more than a few years, we've had sort of the abnormal, right? So yet again, we visit this topic and seek to find an answer.
Absolutely. And we're going to be talking to women in business, you know, exploring some of these women that are doing things within their space. You can see the lady there, Deshola Onadikbe, who is going to be our guest today on the program, an ambassador, the African Arab Women Chamber of Commerce. She's the president of that Chamber of Commerce. We'll bring you up to speed as to what this is all about right here on the program this morning on the Morning Brief.
So let's get started, shall we? You can be a part of the show by watching, sharing with someone. Let us tackle these issues together and ensure that, hey, all voices are heard. We're big on inclusion right here on the Morning Brief. So that's the email, themorningbrief@channelstv.com. You can send in 1 or 2 words and we'll be sure to reflect that in our conversation. So let's see what the front pages are saying this morning, Jeffrey.
Absolutely. So let's get to the Nigerian Tribune. Perhaps that's where we get started from, the big one there. Plateau killings, enough is enough, Ribado warns. Nigeria going through tough, difficult times. It says, Moftang, which is the governor, vows to prosecute perpetrators. ACF, that's our consultative forum, urges government to restore peace. LND demands radical security action. I think the issue of Plateau, I can't just but agree with the NSA that just enough is enough. I just remembered I said at the beginning that December the 25th or 24th of December 2023, we saw that carnage happen on the Plateau. And some of us were quite not happy that some of this carnage had happened and the president didn't visit, and he hasn't visited till today, as far as that issue is concerned. And I don't know why, but this is just too much. Let's remember that people are being killed here. It's not animals, it's not anything. Human beings are being killed. So whatever has to be done, in the words of the NSA, to restore peace, if it's communal clash, if it's ancestral issue, is land, herder, farmer, whatever it is, I think they need to sit down to quiet and brutal honesty and say, you want to annihilate us, you want land cleansing, or you are destroying our business, or whatever it is. Let them speak frankly. Let the people involved speak frankly to themselves, if those are the allegations, and then look for a way forward. There has to be a way for people to coexist, and that has to be done like yesterday, so that people are not just killed carelessly. It's very sad.
It is sad, Jeffrey. You see that places where you have war, it's actually it's a potential for development, and I'll explain what I mean. I think if you go to places that have experienced war and you see what they've been able to make of it afterwards, they begin to see that, wait a minute, so all of this was still possible while people chose to fight, while people chose to kill themselves. You see the kind of development that these places have been able to achieve just barely decades after, they experienced.
Rwanda is a classic example.
Exactly. So while we understand that there will be differences, naturally, even if you're staying in a house with someone, you will naturally have differences. And that's why we have structures in place to ensure that there is law and order, to ensure that there are repercussions, there are consequences for unlawful acts. We must also see that there is a bigger potential for greatness. Jeffrey, I mean, look at the potential for agriculture in Plateau State, the potential for tourism in Plateau State.
Tourism especially. The weather, if you feel too hot where you are, you can just go to Plateau. When I was way younger, my father used to talk about Jos a lot. So that's the image. But now, it's a different tale altogether.
Well, we're big on that issue. We're speaking to all of the stakeholders to ensure that justice is served, and yes, enough is enough, as the Nigerian Tribune put it. But let's take a look at some other front pages this morning, and Blueprint follows with that Plateau killings story as well. ACF, as the Iowa Consultative Forum, urges state of security emergency in vulnerable communities. NEMA says 52 killed, 1,820 displaced. Can AYCF want end to carnage? And of course, a statement by the NSA, Noah Rubadu, is reflected, but from a different angle, Jeffrey. It says security improved by 90%.
Is it in Plateau or across the country?
Very good question. Very, very good question. So find more details on the inside pages of the blueprint. But for those people on the Plateau, they'll tell you, well, we don't feel it, we don't see it, because there are 52 bodies to that effect. Jeffrey.
Let's go to the Nigerian News Direct, which has a different headline this time. Osun LG councils remain moribund as APC Adeleke in war of words. Osun APC accuses Governor Adeleke of plotting judicial manipulation, inciting violence. No room for violence, just rule of law, Governor Adeleke. So this has been the situation where we have two sets of council chairmen claiming the throne this time. On one hand, the APC group that got the court judgment, saying that the court has restored them, and also the PDP saying election has actually taken place and that has been overtaken by event. I've never, since this 2023 presidential general election, the level of chaos, political chaos, is just not, I don't know, it's very disturbing. From internal political crisis to having difference of tools. Under this administration, we had 2 deputy governors, we've had 2 speakers, we have 2 emirs, we have 2 sets of local government chairmen. What exactly is going on with tools under the leadership of this particular...
Did you mention state assemblies as well?
Yeah, I did, state assembly. So are they complete now? So let's start again. 2 state assembly, 2 speakers, 2 emirs, 2 LG, 2 deputy governors. Come on. What exactly is going on?
I'll tell you this, Jeffrey. At some point, we had 2 heads of agencies, federal government agencies.
Yes.
Laying claims to the same office. Right here. In fact,
this game of tools.
It's
very just. And then, you know, we can now go into the political parties.
Yeah.
Just that one, we don't really have 2 chairmen in that sense. But you can see disagreement and factions, not really division in that sense.
We had 2 people laying claims to executive positions in parties. It's just...
It's just shameful.
Yeah.
It just disgraces.
That is a word. Take a look at the Abuja Inquirer. And Jeffrey, the Abuja Inquirer follows a story that has been in the making for over, I think, for weeks now, over 50 days. I recall that the former DG of the NYC, Brigadier General Muarazu Siga, was abducted months ago. And it looked like that story went cold, but no, it didn't. And I remember asking, the military heads about that story on the program some weeks ago. So you see, the exclusive, perhaps, from the Abuja Inquirer, how military generals paid ransom to secure Siga's release. Because the NSA had handed him over, as well as other, victims of kidnapping or abduction. But this speaks to how they probably paid ransom for his release. And you find that on the inside pages of the Abuja Inquirer. It's a story that leaves a very bad taste in the mouth, really. Military generals paying ransom.
I just can't
secure the release of a brigadier general.
I'm trying to process it. It's just difficult to process.
It is.
I don't know. It's just difficult to process.
It is.
I think we'll just leave it at that. All right. So you can see it. The Guardian is the last paper we'll look at today. 1 fiscal year, 2 budget spy governance concerns in Rivers.
So 2 budgets. We mentioned 2
we
budgets.
forgot the 2 budget part. Oh my goodness. 1 fiscal year, 2 budgets. So we understand that some contracts were recalled. Is it revoked? I've forgotten the exact term used now by the sole administrator. It's difficult for me to use that term because I see it as an unconstitutional role. But that's what it is. I have not been comfortable with that, but that's what we have. The sole administrator is preparing a new budget because remember the Supreme Court has said you can't do anything, you can't appropriate anything without a budget.
Yeah.
And since the governor was not able to present the budget, so the sole administrator will now present the budget to the National Assembly Yes, his National Assembly will present it to.
But didn't the statement said he's not to make any laws while he's in power? So appropriation is actually a law.
Yeah, yes, that's part of the reference that was given. That's why he's reverting to the National Assembly. National Assembly will do that. Yeah, so perhaps it's the reason. Maybe the lawyers will be able to explain. But it's not supposed to make any. It's supposed to revert to the Federal Executive Council.
Yeah.
But in the amendment of the gazetted document sent to the National Assembly, they changed it that no, according to Section 11, that's not possible. Everything that has to do with laws, regulation, whatever it is, you have to revert to us. That is what the law says, and they amended it to that effect. So now we have, we should be expecting, this is what, April?
Yeah.
We should be expecting an appropriation bill to that effect. The last one presented to the three-member House was a 1.1 trillion. We don't know how much this is going to be. Perhaps it's going to just sustain it and send it to the National Assembly who will appropriate it. But it's very disgraceful what's going on in Rivers State. It's very shameful. It's very painful. And I'm not even seeing the parties. There was supposed to be a committee that was set up, made of eminent persons Saturday, to resolve the internal issues. Rather than see that, we're seeing spikes yet again inside. It feels to me like certain people don't even want this trouble to end as it lasts. I don't know who they are. You can choose to decide who you think is the set of people that don't want this thing to end. That I have, as a person, using the word sole administrator and recognizing it has been difficult for me as a Democrat. It's hard. But that's what we have. The Supreme Court has to make that decision. And I have my position, but the law will take its course.
Certainly, and we do hope that law takes its course. But we'll take a quick break now while we digest some of these big stories. And when we return, we're starting off with the situation on the Plateau. What exactly is going on? If the NSA says enough is enough, how do we achieve that enough is enough and ensure that there are no killings again on the Plateau? That's the moment. Please stay with us. Yet another series of sad tales coming out of Plateau State, a state that should normally not be in the news for killings, should be in the news for greater things, positive things. But this is where we are. Over 50 people killed, over 1,000 displaced as a result of the attack on Bokos. We're joined on the program, as you can see, by Major General Augustine Agundu, former Commander Operations Safe Haven. He joins us live from our Abuja studio. Good morning, General. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning, Kayode. A pleasure to be here with you. Good morning, Nigerians.
Certainly, and we really hope that we can find a lasting solution to this. It's a topic that we've been on for years now. You can almost predict that every year you'll have at least 5 incidents on the Plateau, sometimes even more. And this time around, over 50 people killed. You have had to sit in the command rooms, look at issues from a bird's eye view, different from what people see on the ground. You see all of the different factors that come together to cause insecurity and killings like this. So I'd like to ask, General, when you look at this Plateau situation yet again, what do you see that we may have been missing all this while?
Yeah, unfortunately, the situation in Plateau is regrettable that actually took place. It's one death too many, and we know that a lot of efforts are in place to ensure there is no repetitive of these attacks at the level at this carnage, at the level that we have seen. It's just too unfortunate because people have decided to take laws into their hands. We must be mindful that the situation in Plateau remains very volatile. It's a case of a multi-dimensional threat to peace and security, to coexistence of all. And it's also an incident that has lingered for too long. And what we have now prevalent in Plateau, you see this segregated type of living. segregated type of communities. We have a long ethnic line, a long religious line, which makes it prone to a lot of attacks against each other. And what we see, unfortunately, from this recent one is also cases of vengeful reprisals. It started way back since February. The troops on the ground, Operation Safe Haven, have been able to contain it over the period, and they have done very good professional work to ensure that it never gets out of hand. It's unfortunate that these reprisals across board in both sides of the divide is what normally worsens it. And once we get some kind of respite, everybody go to sleep.
General, I do not know whether it's just idealism to believe that there's such a thing as perfect peace, except in death. But there can be some level of sanity, because we live in a global world where we see that there are climes that even where people disagree, do not, maybe don't even want to see one another eye to eye. They are able to coexist some way or the other because they are run by law and there is a consequence of bad behavior. So sometimes it's difficult to say what exactly is responsible for the perpetuity on the Plateau. When I saw the story at the weekend, it just felt very sad, because I just remembered that less than a year and a half ago, December 24th, and even I think in early January of December 24, 2023, and I think January 2024, so cumulatively, I think Nigeria lost about maybe 150 to 200 people in that same Plateau state. So from your experience as a general who has been at these places, what exactly is the core issue, if we want to be brutally honest? Is it that we are not brutally honest, that's why we're not having a closure, or this is just difficult to deal with?
You're absolutely right. We are not, I like the choice of word, brutally honest in the issues that emanate from Plateau. We must go to the root causes of this. And it has been in that dichotomy of indigenous and settlers. Unless that is resolved, that is the root cause of the problems on the Plateau. Who is an indigenous, who is a settler? And unfortunately, the Constitution did not express that. I do hope that those looking into the constitutional amendment will be able to address that. In one aspect, you address as a citizen, and in another aspect, you address as an indigenous. And that's on one there. And again, these are people who have lived together for years, and suddenly this animosity, deep-rooted animosity against one another, is what has made it to linger over and again. It's unfortunate, like I said, it is one death too many. And there is a lot of effort that is on from the military side, from the other security agencies and all whatnot, to stem the tide of if not for their efforts, it would have been worse than we are experiencing today. It's unfortunate effort must be made to secure life, to see ourselves as one Nigerian living in peace and harmony with one another. Unfortunately, certain persons are there to make sure that that does not happen. And then the other aspect that is also at the root cause is some kind of weak legal system. Because even in a situation whereby criminals are arrested, the provisions that to try them are just so weak. It's like a slap on the wrist. And then they go back to the community and even cause more havoc. So we must have a deliberate effort that say, let us put this behind us. And at the root of it all is this dichotomy. If it's not resolved, that's going to be a problem. I was privileged when in 2019, when the House of Assembly, after inauguration, they visited me as commander on the ground. And I told them bluntly, and perhaps, I don't know, for lack of choice of words, that if you are all representatives of the people, if you don't address this issue of indigenship and settler, this problem will keep on going on. And again, at the root of it, yes, like you said, there will always be issues of disharmony and all whatnot. But when it goes into killings and reprisals and counterattacks and all whatnot, then that means things they will get out of hand. And most often we forget that the communities are far flung from one another. Some are like 20 kilometers far apart, some are 50 kilometers far apart, and there are no infrastructure connecting these communities. Even in some communities, you cannot reach them by motorbike. So, and once there are attacks, they choose their target very carefully. And before the security agencies can even react, the havoc has been committed. And it might also interest us to realize that when you are talking about counterattacks and reprisals, it's always to other innocent communities who were not at the initial bane of the problems. So we must be able to come together as a people to agree on how to address the issue in Plateau, and by extension, the entire North Central states.
So, General, as much as we're being brutally honest, I want us to also target that honesty at the right people so that Nigerians know who to hold responsible, or at least know where the problems are, so begin to troubleshoot it. We've heard different stories and accounts of security operatives arresting people, and after a while, they get calls, in quote, from above, saying, well, you have to let those people go. You have operated in that area. You have led the Operation Safe Haven. So you might want to speak to that. Is that something that happened or still happens where you get calls and say, you know, you have to let those people go? Or do you want us to have trouble on our hands? That's on the one hand. When you say the indigent settler issue is responsible for this, what is the solution, really? Some have said, well, everybody should stay in their domain. But this is Nigeria, right? There is some sort of freedom of movement. So some said, you know, let's just have security bases in these areas. We had security bases, but you hear the people say, well, we call the military or security operatives, and they come hours after the attack. So they also allege complicity on the part of the security operatives. So two questions in one: interference from people from above in that sense, and complicity on the part of security operatives. Is that something you experienced during your time, General?
We want to totally disagree on the aspect of complicity of the military or the security agencies generally. In the first instance, there is a very good interagency cooperation on the Plateau. All the agencies of government, all the security agencies, they are functioning as one body, and they also share information and share knowledge, and also even material and expertise. So the complicity there is always, and we have to be very careful on who is talking, because most often people talk from their own ethnic biases. Unless we are able to hold this in that a criminal is a criminal irrespective of where he comes from. Right. And unfortunately, there is an aspect in the entirety of the Plateau conundrum that we're not even looking at. The number of orphans that the crisis have created, the number of widows that the crisis have created. Look, this issue needs to be stopped. And then those who are charged with the other responsibility, and they have to come on board and take it up as it's supposed to be. I've been in touch with distinguished Senator Simon Bakula Long, and I know all the effort that he's been carrying out on regarding, even though it's not his senatorial zone, distinguished Senator Dickett Plank. I know all the effort that they are doing at their own levels and all whatnot. And again, let's go back to the position of the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa. He remained and maintains that every of our insecurity or every of our security challenges has only 30% military effort, while the other 70% is the whole of a society. Now, most often, once the situation is sorted out, like you mentioned, from 2023 to 2024, December, January, we saw what happened in that period, and even now, what is going on now, which since 27th of February this year, that's when this particular situation commenced. And the security agencies have nipped everything on the board. But like I say, and from my own experiences, the criminals, I call them criminals, they choose their target far-flung from the society where there is no infrastructural development that connects the people together and all whatnot, and they carefully choose their target and they execute their heinous crime. So these are mere criminals. And again, we must look into again, without repeating myself, the weak legal system. Criminals have been arrested. handed over for prosecution, handed over for, but because the provisions of whatever crime that they are being requires for bail or some little amount of money to be paid and the person is set free, and then he goes back to the society and become worse than earlier on. And somebody who has been in detention or who has gone through some legal processes is already hardened, and he does not see anything wrong in that. And again, we kept on saying about conflict merchant. There are people who profiteer from this insecurity for whatever the reasons are, for whatever their purposes are. So we have to be, the whole of society need to be on board. The non-governmental organization, civil society organization, every person have to be on board to make sure that these incidences of attack ceases. Let's even we must have a tangible, measurable. Can we say for 365 days there should be peace and security on the plateau? Is it possible, or is that hypothetical? So these are things that we need to come together as a people, and not any time that these issues come up, then we just realize that yes, it's just we versus them or them versus us.
All right, General, let's look at a few things. We're going to talk about some of the operational issues, but I want you to, from your experience and now speaking to the civil space as a general, I have spoken to some authorities on the plateau, and one of the things that you see they put out is the fact that this is fundamentally about land grabbing. That is one of the things I've heard them say, that these are settlers who are coming to do business or rear cattle or whatever, and then eventually they want to own this space, and that's why the friction. I do not know how long this has been and all of that, but that seemed to be the bone of contention in the long run. So if you were to make a suggestion, so for instance, the settler has been there for 20 years, 30 years, maybe even 40 years, and has begun to have that sense of, indigenship. But the indigents will say, okay, this is how far you can go, this is how far you cannot go. And then all of this friction is beginning to happen. So in your view, what is the best, non-kinetic approach to begin to resolve this? Because these are headlines, to be very honest. These are very strong headlines. Where do we begin from in resolving this headline in terms of conflict resolution?
You recall that under the administration of distinguished Senator Simon Bako Lalong, he established a Plateau Peace Building Agency. And as it is today, the current administration still maintains that agency. And that agency is headed by one of our renowned conflict experts in the person of Dr. Sander. And they'll be doing enormous work. And in this agency, they have what we call peace monitors in all the communities to give some kind of early warnings and all whatnot. Well, you see, Plateau, the settlement is not a congregated kind of settlement that we have. You will see somebody, a family, you might be shocked that a distance between one family within a community to another might be up to 200 meters away, and under very terrible landscape. Or whatnot, so that communication even between them by voice and all is even very difficult. And of course, needless to talk about if there are other means of communications like your mobile phones and all whatnot. So people are living, people want to live the way that they want to live. But the point is that the criminals seize the opportunities of this disenchantment, and they unleash it to on innocent persons. Now, when you talk about the settlers, it's not 20 years or 30 years. I can tell you, some are as far as 100 and even 200 years. Some trace their grandfather, great-grandfather to wherever that it is. That's why I was saying that we must be able to have that constitutional definition of or expunging. If you look at the Constitution very well, I'm not a legal person or whatnot, but you will see that in a certain instance you are talking about citizens of the country. In another place, say wherever you said you are an indigenous of that place. So it's some kind of contradiction. So if we are ready to face this headlong, and unfortunately, it is a very sensitive thing to address, because I've been able to also interact with a lot of, within the traditional institution, everything. The languages I hear from them is also not that, it's not too heartwarming. Now, you were talking about land grabbing. I can tell you from my experience, on the ground, and I have a good grip of the nooks and crannies while I was there, and the current commander is also doing the same or whatnot. It is very difficult, but when you want to give a dog a bad name, you start using that of land grabbing.
All right.
It's almost, or for the lack of semantics, or when people are bereft of good ideas and reasoning or whatnot, they say land grabbing. And good enough, you see gradually the issue of farmer header crisis is also now being like a thing of the past. So these are languages that people use in order to foment the trouble, to cause the trouble, to give credence to their criminal intent on both sides. Everybody, both sides. It's not a matter of whether you're of this tribe or that tribe, but whenever there is any crisis, both sides are at fault.
Well, General, speaking of the name being given to these attacks, as we wind down, it's also been described as Fulani herdsmen killing natives who are Christians, and I'm sure you've gotten all of that kind of tagging while you were there, and that's what is quite prominent, particularly on social media now. So you see it's an attack on Christians by Fulani herdsmen, it's a reprisal, they were killed first. How should we see this? And more importantly, also, what do you expect from the government of Plateau State and the federal government? Because the NSA said enough is enough. What does enough is enough look like in terms of security and non-kinetic as we wind down, General?
Yes, I agree with the National Security Advisor. Of course, enough is enough, like we are talking about. And now the federal government is at the verge of going into all these development commissions, North Central Development Commission. There must be a holistic approach to the Plateau, and Plateau cannot be handled in isolation. We must take the entirety, because what happens in Plateau reflects in Nasarawa. What happened in Nasarawa, southern Kaduna, even the Bauchi, the southern part of Bauchi, and as the case may be. So we need to have a very good coordination within this state, because the criminals, they move from one area to another. Across the state, across borders, and of course, the communities on the ground, they know who these merchants are. Bring them out. If we do not coordinate the activities of all these criminal gangs and their sponsors and the circle will continue along that line. So it's very essential that the federal government of Nigeria, under whatever auspices, should have a coordinated approach to look into the entirety of the North Central region of the country. And by that, we'll be able to be addressing Plateau in the states in isolation.
Right.
And again, of course, the Plateau State government is also doing their best. I know, and of course, I know from hindsight that also the military and the other security agencies, they are doing their best to contain all these. If not for their effort, it would have been worse than we have experienced now. But it's unfortunate. We do hope that sooner than later, everything that relates to attacks and counterattacks on the Plateau will be a thing of the past.
So do you agree that this is Fulani herdsmen, Christian indigens narrative? Do you agree with it from the evidence?
It's a kind of, sincerely, I want to disagree. I want to disagree. There's nothing like Fulani herdsmen. There's nothing like Christian. There's no, but we know also that when some persons, they are looking for favors from some international organization or whatnot, they target religious or whatnot. And when some persons are looking for, of course, I had to contend with that while I was there. I had to get some associations that came visiting or whatnot. I told them outrightly, it has nothing to do with religion. What we are experiencing here is criminals, stealing of cattle, stealing of motorcycles, stealing, and the locals, they know who the criminals are. So when they go after the criminals and unfortunately do take the laws into their hands and whatnot, then the result becomes what we see. And what happened is what we are experiencing now was as a result of stealing of cattle and stealing of motorcycles, and whereby the community there, they killed a Fulani man, and the Fulani people came back in a retaliation to that, because this attack and counter-attack, it will never help us in addressing the peace and security situation that we so desire on the plateau. I can conveniently say by my experience and whatnot, the issue relating to along religious line is almost not there. But we know we have these three devils, you know, that are affecting Africa as a whole: ethnicity, religion, even political affinity or socioeconomic reasons and all whatnot. But in the case of what goes on the plateau, the totality of it is criminal, criminals taking advantage of the vulnerability of the people to unleash mayhem.
And we expect the full force of the law on this criminality. We have to thank you so much, General, for providing the much-needed insight into these issues. We've been speaking with Major General Augustine Agundu, former Commander, Operation Safe Haven. He's retired, but certainly not tired. Thank you so much, General.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, you've gotten an insight from the security angle. What about the people on the ground, the indigents, the government, the residents? That's the moment. Stay with us.
Welcome back. We're not done with the conversation around what's going on the plateau. We're being joined in the program by the CAN chairman of the 19 Northern States and the FCC, Reverend Joseph John Hayab. He joins us from Abuja studios, as well as Mr. Samuel Jato, Secretary to the Plateau State Government, joining us via Zoom. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program. Let me start with you, Mr. Jato, from the government angle. We just spoke with a general who has been at the operation theater and is giving his own diagnostics as far as this issue is concerned. In terms of his characterization of the challenge being faced on the plateau, he feels that it's less of ethnicity and religion, more of criminality. How do you characterize it, sir?
Thank you for having me on the program. Good morning. First of all, I think Agundu, my good friend, yes, he did a very good job while he was here on the plateau. And he touched on some of the matters, but he didn't paint a good picture. First, I want to make a correction on the impression we're having. The plateau issue that we're facing today, it is because of the last incident that we're talking about the plateau, but in context, it is the entire landscape of northern Nigeria that is affected by these issues. So let's not isolate Plateau, because that gives a negative narrative to the state. And that is one of the issues that we need to correct now. The issue at the crux of the matter is land grabbing. The issue of ethnicity and all that, I think they are just on the side. It is land grabbing, because how do you explain when you kill people, you maim, you clear them up, and you take over their homes and their farmlands? What is that? That is land grabbing. So when there is, he was painting a picture. The last incident was not a reprisal, because we don't know what happened before this happened. In the afternoon around 3 p.m., the people in Hurti village were just going about their normal activities, and people came in a motorcade of over 20 motorcycles and started shooting sporadically within the village, passed, and as the women and children and everybody ran out of the village, they now started burning the houses. They looted their farm produce, their potatoes and all. What do you call that? It is theft, it is land grabbing. It is banditry. And that is what is across the landscape of northern Nigeria. It is not synonymous with only Plateau State.
So, because I'm trying to understand, so on one hand you're saying it's land grabbing, but it looks like on the other hand there's also the element of criminality. Is it that they chase these people out and take over their land, or they just take their spoils, kill them and go away? What exactly is the picture here?
It's the combination of so many things, but what you have said is exactly what has happened. They chase people out of the villages, they steal from their houses, and in some cases, where they want, where the land looks very fertile and it is good and it is nice, they take over the land. There are so many communities in Plateau State today that if you want, you can come as channels. Yesterday, a reporter was with us when we went to take relief materials to Hutsi. We've been run into an ambush yesterday. So these things are real. We at the beginning of this program we said let us be brutal, let us tell ourselves the truth. We must tell ourselves the truth if we want to address this problem. This problem is we have to tackle it holistically. It is a problem across the length and breadth of northern Nigeria.
So speaking of brutal honesty, who is trying to grab whose land?
Well, the criminals that came in are trying to grab the land of the natives, the farmers. Our people are agrarian. We're 70%, over 70% agrarian. And we live, just like Colonel Agundu painted the picture, which is very correct. Our communities settle around their farmlands so that they can build. So when one person settles here, another settles a few meters away. That is the type of settlement that you find around Plateau.
I understand, Mr. Toto. I just wanted to be clear in terms of identity, because I imagine that the government has the identity.
This is the narration I got yesterday from the village head in Hursi. When we went, the reporters were there. When he narrated to us, he said the attackers were Fulanis.
Okay. Let's take it to the Reverend. Reverend, I'm sure you've heard both the retired general, you've also heard the SGF, the secretary to the government, SSG rather, of Plateau State. What is your own interpretation of what is played out here? Because we have a lot of version depending on who we speak with.
Thank you very much for bringing me up. And sincerely speaking, the trouble in the Plateau, as the secretary to Plateau State government said, it's not just in the Plateau. It's actually in most communities that call themselves the Middle Belt. The challenge is that every day you wake up, some strange people will come and attack you, come in numbers, attack women, attack children, wipe out an entire community. And you ask yourself, what exactly are they looking for? And that's why the interpretation is that it's land grabbing, because when you create fear in the minds of the people, you chase them away from their ancestral land, you take what rightfully belongs to them, and probably after some months or years, they cannot come back because they are not certain if things are well, then strange people will come and take that place. And so that's where the land grabbing comes in. But you cannot also do away with what the general said. You know, I've been in development work for some years, and I used to argue a lot with people who say that our crisis is farmers' herders, and I say, no, wait a minute. I grew up to know farmers' herders conflict. I know the herders or the farmers or the herders do not have gun. I don't know them for killing women, for killing children just because someone encroached in a farm or an animal is killed. They may exchange words angrily, but they have a way to settle it. But we have criminals who have taken over our land, who come with sophisticated weapons, who come in the night, who kill women, kill children, kill husbands, destroy everything, and you still call them herders or farmers. This is where the use of those terms becomes quite complicated and continue to extend this evil. Because until we begin to call a criminal, unless we begin to call someone who do something evil, that what he's doing is wrong, we are not going to go after them. So the challenge is actually multifaceted. We have the criminal part of it. We have the land grabbing part of it. We have also the issues that sometimes people think that we shouldn't say that exist. The manipulation of politics, or the joblessness of young people, and so much, and so on and so forth. You can name them. These things keep going on. And you ask me a question, why the Middle Belt? You all know that the land is fertile. You all know that the land is actually good for whatever those who are interested want to. But I don't think you need to come to kill people before you benefit from the land. You can come peacefully. You can live peacefully, because I grew up to know that our people are accommodative, and they have accommodated a lot of people many decades ago. And those people farm and even grew up to say they belong to that community, and nobody asks them question. But when it becomes you go after people's life, you destroy their farmland, you destroy their homes, you kill them. And sometimes, you know, in order to make it look big, they destroy their places of worship. And that's why you have so many versions and you have so many things. But the most important thing I want to dwell on is These people are criminal, and when we call them criminal, we know what to do with them. These people, if they come for land grabbing, they should know that in every land, even though everybody comes, but there are people who own the land. So we cannot continue to fold our arms and allow this evil to continue and create fear. And when you have fear in the minds of people, then there's no production.
Is there for you a religious angle to this? Because it's important to understand all of the different facets of this. So we're able to handle it holistically. So it's not just piecemeal here and there. Is there for you also a religious angle to this? Because as I said earlier on with the general, there are those who are saying it from different angles. Some say, well, there's a religious bit, there's an ethnic bit. You say, well, it's just land grabbing, but you can't rule out all of those other angles. So I'd like to confirm from you if that is indeed the case.
Yeah, you see, whether we say it or we don't say it, the criminals have a certain identity. And when they come, they chant religious identity. And so the religious angle comes to bear. A larger number of the farmers are of certain religious identity. But as someone who has been around and I understand some of these things very well, I sometimes downplay the religious angle because it's a diversion. It's deliberately to divert attention, because a criminal will want to hit on Christians so that, hey, it is Christian versus Muslim. But there are many other innocent Muslims who are suffering because of the attitude of the criminal. Or the criminal will hit the Muslim, it is Muslim versus Christians. But there are other Christians who are suffering, but the criminal is having a field day. And when we concentrate on this religious angle too much, we divert attention from hitting the criminal or from going after the criminal. I quite agree that the criminals use religious cover, they use tribal cover, but they are criminals. And unless we say that, that's when we can now come together, Christians and Muslims and everybody, to chase them out, to fight them. But you see, this overuse of this identity further just divides the people so that the criminals will have a field day. Because if they meet a Muslim on the road, they're going to kill him. If they meet a Christian on the way, they're going to kill him. But they do come with religious identity. And I ask this question, are they truly religious? Do they represent the faith they are claiming to? And you will agree with me that they don't.
Reverend, before we go to the SSG, let's stay with you for a moment. I understand what you're saying, and I'm sure a lot of people will agree to a couple of the things you've said. But if the general belief among the people that are affected by this carnage, if you will, is that this is religion, how do you reprogram that? Because their perception is their reality in this sense.
Yeah, you see, that's where we come in finding solution. Because in finding solution, we have to carry every stakeholder in it. We have the Christian clerics, and that's what Northern State wants to offer herself to say, look, this attacks is one too many. Every time we wake up to a new attack in another community, can we begin an honest and transparent discourse about it? A discourse that we come to the table as equal partners. A discourse that we come to the table as people who feel the pains of what is happening and begin to find solution. Because security agencies alone cannot tackle this. They have tried, and we commend them for what they are doing. I must say that the governor of Plateau State and his team have done an excellent job since this unfortunate incident happened. But you see, we need to really carry everybody so that people will begin to see it as their responsibility. Not just government, not just security, but our responsibility. I have a role to play in securing the community. You have a role to play in securing the community. After all, when you look at the number of security men we have around Nigeria with a large population, they cannot cover everywhere. So what can I do as a faith leader? What can you do as a faith leader? And in doing this, we need to win the love and trust of one another. So when we come to do the blame game of, oh, you are the one, I'm the one, we cannot really talk. So we need to give that opening so that both Muslim clerics, Christian clerics, traditional rulers, women, youth, and every stakeholder will see it as a fight against us. After all, we humans are members of one family. Why should we allow tiny division to destroy our joy, our peace, our togetherness? The progress that would have been made in Plateau for many years, the progress that would have been made in Kaduna, in Benue, in other parts of northern Nigeria, is actually not visible now because of this attacks and attack and attack. It is like we build today, we destroy it tomorrow. We build and probably allow it for 1 week, and we destroy it again and start rebuilding. Where can you find, where do you even have the money for such kind of development? So many things are wrong. What we need now is, what do we do and speak to each other's genuinely, sincerely to find solution. The blame game, we've heard a lot about it. We want to find solution. And I'm offering this to say, look, the Muslim cleric in the Plateau, we are willing to talk with you. Let nobody use our faith to give, or nobody give our faith a wrong name.
Right.
You shouldn't allow anybody to use Islam to give it a wrong name, and I'm not going to allow anybody to use Christianity to give it a wrong name. If it is tribe, we will not allow people to use the name of our tribes and give us a bad name. We grew up to know that we want to protect a good name for our families, a good name for our tribes, a good name for what we belong.
Well,
what is happening today that our names are associated with killing, with destruction? So we need to start doing something.
Certainly. Let me take this, Mr. Jato, and ask from the government's perspective. While there's what you can do before an attack, there's what you can do during that attack to mitigate the impact. There's also what is meant to be done after, which is where we're at right now. But this timeline we're on is also a before for hopefully not a potential attack in the future. So it's very important what is done right now by government. And for the Plateau State government, I want you to walk us through your own actions, maybe before, during, and at this moment after. Have arrests been made on the one hand? How many people have been arrested? What is the process to seeking justice? In the past, have you been successful in ensuring justice for this criminality, the way it's been described, whether it's land grabbing or what have you, it is also criminality. So I'd like you to walk us through, Mr. Jato, so we're abreast as to what the government is doing.
Thank you, Kaide, but I must confess, I can see our time is fast spent. You didn't give me enough time to do justice to this matter, but I want to thank Reverend Hayab for painting a very good picture of what is happening in our land. Now, what is government doing? Government, just like General Agundu said in the first place, Director General of the Peace Building Agency, Dr. Sanda, is doing a fantastic job trying to bring communities together, trying to rewind the social fabric of community so that we can stay in peace together. You will agree with me that for about a year now, the crisis on the plateau have not been so volatile. It has been a bit quiet. And then out of the blues, from nowhere, like I said, there wasn't something that, an incident that happened and then that you would call this a reprisal. There wasn't a clash in any farm that you would call it a farmer-herder clash. There was nothing like that. People were just in their homes in the village, in Hurti village to be precise, and these people came in a motorcade and attacked them. What are we doing? Yesterday we were there with relief materials. Over 383 houses were burned, by the way, Kayode. Over 40 people killed from the accounts given to us by the village head. Now, so we went there with relief materials. They need food, they need clothing, they need mattresses, they need building materials to rebuild their houses, because if they don't rebuild their houses, these are peasant farmers. That is how the land grabbing starts, because they need to move away to their relations, to live with them. And then once they vacate the villages, these people come and take over. And you cannot come back there again. You cannot farm. Then they impoverish the people. And it becomes a vicious circle. So this is the point we're making. But government on its own, security is not in the hands of government, like you know. We're just doing our best, partnering with the federal government. And they've been doing a good job. They've been a good support to us. The terrain is also another problem. It took us a long time. The road, you need to see the road going to the village. So these are issues. And where is the money to build roads in all these villages? The attacks are coming up left, right, and center. So it's a grand design. This is the point. We have to just have respect for human life. There has to be community resilience. This is what I told the people yesterday. We must come as a people. We must be united. We must respect each other. We must love each other. We used to live together in peace. Fulanis are not, when you ask me who are the attackers, I was hesitant because I don't want to stereotype anybody. But you see, we've lived with Fulanis. Even in the village, we dropped relief materials in Tade yesterday. There were Fulanis in the village when we were there. There were mosques standing there. And still the village head and the people gave accounts and said it was Fulanis that came and attacked. So if it was something that they were fighting the Fulanis as a people, they would have attacked those ones that were living with them. But no, that was not the case, because they know those ones that are living with them are not the attackers. So this thing is an act of criminality that must be addressed by the federal government of Nigeria in a holistic manner, so that Plateau will be part of the whole. And I think when that is done, because sometimes when these things happen from one community, they move to another state or to another local government, and they unleash mayhem on the people there. So it has to be tackled from all over. But unfortunately, our security forces are overstretched. So I think there has to be a very serious
solution. Now that you put it on the lap of the federal government, what exactly do you mean by the federal government has to act? Is it in the legal, judicial aspect? Is it in the use of force? What exactly?
We have arrested people in the past, and they have been released. But on this account, I can assure you that I know that there's one person in custody right now, and we are going to pursue this matter to a logical conclusion.
Okay.
I just wanted to quickly get clarity on some of the questions asked. One, the previous arrests that have been made, you said that they've been released, right? Or they didn't really go the way you wanted it to go. How many people have been arrested now based on your interaction with security forces? And secondly, when you say the terrain is bad to some of these areas, why aren't we having roads fixed? If that's one of the challenges, why aren't we fixing the roads? And that's talking about the government now. Fix the roads, ensure that there's at least some sort of infrastructure to ensure access.
Kayode, you are a Nigerian. Government cannot fix all the roads in all the villages at the same time. It's a piecemeal solution, and we are scattered all over the state. Plateau is a rocky terrain. It's a very difficult terrain. So these are issues. What I know about who the arrest made, I am sure of one person in custody with the STF right now. Investigations are still ongoing, and I'm sure more arrests will be made in the near future.
Okay. So let me go back to the Reverend and just say, if you can do it in 30 seconds. So from where you sit, where are you beginning from in trying to resolve this, you know, from the religious angle, just so that you put it on record, sir?
Yeah, we begin by engaging our Islamic counterpart in a very robust and constructive dialogue. But we also want this dialogue not just to be a city-based dialogue, a dialogue that comes also from bottom to top. The reason is that most time when we sit in the city and hold what we call dialogue, the grassroots people are not involved. They don't even know what we are discussing, and the crisis is happening among them. So we are going to be suggesting this idea of, look, let's go to these communities. Let's engage these people in dialogue. Let's build their capacity to understand how to resist external influence, and let's see how we grow up from there. I'm believing that when we talk, there will be less fighting. But when we don't talk, we continue to suspect one another, accuse one another, and the evil one penetrate among us and cause us pains.
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on the program and for giving your perspective on the issue. Reverend Joseph John Hayab, the chairman of CAN in the 19 northern states and the FCT. Also, the secretary to the Plateau State government, Mr. Samuel Jato, joins us via Zoom. Thank you so much for coming on the program. We appreciate it, and we hope that peace will be permanently restored on the Plateau.
Thank you very much.
Well, from there, we will take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about political parties, internal democracy, deepening democracy, and sometimes the conflict as to between constitution and party rules and regulation. I'll break it down right here on the program. The party men will be joining us right here on the Morning Brief. Join us again.
Well, let's talk politics now, because it's the politics that affects the policy that then eventually affects the economy, security, or what have you. And as you can see, we're joined by Interim National Coordinator of the Obedient Movement Worldwide, Dr. Unisa Tanko, from our Abuja studio. And joining us from Virginia, the USA, is a legal practitioner, Mr. Oluseyi Bisiriyu. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for joining us on the program. Naturally, I'll begin with Dr. Tanko. Right, and I just want you to speak to the Supreme Court's ruling, which basically says, well, by setting aside the judgment recognizing Mr. Julius Abure as a Labour Party's national chairman, saying the court does not even have any reason to look into this matter at all, so it's set aside. the one recognizing him as the national chairman. So in one breath, you have political parties saying courts should not decide on issues that pertain to our internal affairs. But guess what? In the same vein, you have the same politicians, political leaders heading to the courts, filing cases. So the question is, what do politicians really want, particularly the ones in opposition parties? Because it looks like almost all of the opposition parties have some internal issues or the other. Mr. Tanko.
Okay, thank you very much for having me, Cowdy. Let me refer to Jonathan Day in his book where he was talking about the 14 principles of democracy. But because of wanting of time, I'm going to just talk about only 6 of them. 1 is talking about basic human rights. 2, talk about multi-political party democracy, which has to do with also with tolerance. And then talk about voting, transparent voting system. They talk about the rule of law and engagement. And you talk about the issue of good governance. And then lastly, citizen participation. I must tell you for sure, there are interest groups that goes in within the political party system in order to erode this particular principle just because of personal interest. And of course, these things happen within the political system. So it's not about a political party in particular, it's about those who are in position of power, who try to railroad into what democracy actually pretends and protect. And that is the reason why some of us who decide to respect the rule of law, as its case may be, tends to be in a position of defect. And then we only look for succor in the courts of the land. And while it is important to state the fact that, yes, the political parties have their constitution and rules which must be followed into, don't forget the constitution of the political parties got its standing from the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, including the manifestos of the political party. All of them comes from the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So they are being seen to be protected by the Constitution of Nigeria, daring. In that case, some of the activities that are within the Constitution is actually rule of law on its own. I'll give you a simple example. When you say that internal democracy happens within the political party, it has its guiding principle, it has its laws, and it must be adhered to. Even if the court may say that they may not interfere with the activities of the political party, but there are basic needs that they will make pronouncement on. Like the case in the court now, who says that we must respect the political party's constitution. And so whether that particular constitution is being followed into is another matter entirely. But all I'm trying to say here is that the rule of law guards the political party's activities, as the case may be.
You are in the United States, and Jeffrey and I, when we started the show this morning, we were talking about how we've had, 2 political party heads, 2 people jostling for a position. We've had 2 emirs jostling for the same position, even 2 budgets. There's always some jostling, one jostling or the other. And for someone like you who has had the opportunity to taste of both worlds in that sense, what would you say is the difference? Because in other climes, you realize that it's not really that do or die affair. You hardly find people laying claims, 2 people laying claims to the Democratic Party's leadership or Republican Party leadership. So why is our case peculiar, if I could say that?
Thank you for having me. I think that we cannot remove the historical perspective of our own political landscape, how it began. Mostly, the fact that AG, Action Congress in 1951, and NCNC and the Northern People Congress, this set of parties started mostly the foundation of politics in Nigeria. And some of the actions taken at that time were taken because of the colonial masters, Richard Constitution, and the fact that there were so many underdevelopment in the country at that time. So the likes of Awolowo, which is the action group, when they started their political party, they made sure that they had certain things in place. They wanted to make sure that the political party had action. They wanted to make sure that the political party had discipline. And also there was some form of secrecy, basically because they were scared of the veracity of Dr. Azikwe's propaganda against the new party for Western region at that time. Now, drawing from that, we can say that there is a cultural element to how parties are run in Nigeria. And so far, those elements has not really changed. Now, the 1999 Constitution, incorporated in Section 40 the freedom of peaceful assembly and expression. And based on that peaceful assembly of expression, it gives INEC the power to, conduct elections and some other powers that gives it rights to manage political parties. The constitution itself of each party draws its power from these rights. And when some of their dispute resolution mechanism fails, which is not the same in America, those dispute, because the politics here is over 200 years, most of these things has been entrenched into a system where all these internal disputes are managed properly without it going out to the courts in most cases. But because we are still a little bit younger in the African polity, it is easier to find stakeholders riding on certain rights, and freedom of expression is mostly what is the problem in most of these political or internal politics, like the APC Malami case, where Malami had to go to court in order to force the APC to accept certain,
Yeah, you can just land on your thought in 10 seconds so we can, I can ask more questions.
Okay. So the point I'm saying is that historically, Americans have a way of settling the dispute, and the Africans have a way of doing it because we are still young in it, and we cannot remove that from our polity.
All right, let me bring it to you, Dr. Tanko. Two things I want to say as a build-up to the question. One of the reasons why the military set up the SDP and the NRC before the 1993 elections was to make sure that we don't have money bags taking over political parties, people claiming to be founding fathers and having godfathers, but that is what is prevalent today. So that's why it looks like whatever the military under General Babangida wanted to achieve has now been eroded, because we now have national leaders, people that have a sense of ownership of these political parties. But my question, I will take my question from one of the contributory judgments in the Rivers incident that happened earlier this year. And that came from Justice Iheme, where she said, the law is right that the court will not inquire into the membership of a political party being their internal affairs. She cited a case law. This court held that membership of a political party is a matter that is strictly within the domestic affairs of a political party, and the courts have no jurisdiction to determine who the members of a political party are. It is not justiciable. Also citing another case law, Tumbito and INEC in 2023 versus INEC rather, where this court also held that political parties are supreme over their own affairs, and no court can inquire into the issue of membership and leadership of political parties. The question of membership of a political party are outside the purview of a court's jurisdiction. Now, this looks like within the premise of membership and leadership, but we can expand it to other things. People have seen this to say, the court is not leaving. Let me ask, when you see this kind of judgment from, say, the apex court, is this not falling into the same hands? Or because this looks like, solve your problem, we don't have jurisdiction over your issue, so this is now putting the money bags, the people with the war chest, to run the affairs of the political parties. Those who don't have it are automatically marginalized and ostracized. So with this premise, how can everybody have a sense of belonging in a political party?
Okay, thank you very much. The major problem we have in our laws, yes, the laws are good, but the major problem is enforcement. Enforcement, and I reiterate that word, enforcement. If within the political party we have rules of engagement, and where those particular engagement rules are being found to be fouled by individuals, of course, there must be enforcement. The court, the court will not run away from the issue of enforcement of your own laws. Once you bring the issues out, based on the constitution of the party, the laws of the land must be adjudicated to, and at the same time, you enforce that particular position of the constitution. That would not be seen as if you are interfering. I say I'm going to do A, B, C, based on the constitution that brought me and you together, and I fail to do that based on that particular constitution, I'll be found liable. So we need to enforce these particular laws, even within the political parties. So in that case, we will have little challenge. I am of the opinion, a strong one too, about most of our cases being, there has been an interference by our courts. It shouldn't be, because most of the things should have been done according to the regulations that we put to ourselves. And then the only thing that the court can do is just to interpret and enforce those particular laws that we put in within the system. And when you are making references to SDP and NRC days and all, the supreme body or leadership of a political party are actually the leaders of the political party. In fact, if you are an elected member, you are supposed to be just like any ordinary member when it comes to meetings. But when you go out, then you can now exhibit your power as an executive or an elected person. That means they are disciplined within the political party. But you see, back in those days, most of the political party derive their funding from members. Members can easily pay membership dues, and then they held accountable those who are in position of leadership. But nowadays, it is not seen at that particular level. Many of the political party leaders who are elected using the platform of the political party become lords in the political party rather than becoming a member. And if you look at the economic indices during those periods and this time, you see that there's a very large difference. So there must be a way in which the political party members own the political party, not those who have found themselves in the political party to owning the party. That's where you find the interference of good fatherism and those money bags.
Well, Mr. Tanko, speaking of interference, I'd like us to look at the case that has been playing out in your party, right? So we had last year, Mr. Peter Obi and Governor Alex Otti back in a caretaker leadership arrangement headed by Nnamdi Usman. In the same vein, you had Mr. Julius Abure first saying that Nnamdi Usman was not even a member of the Labour Party, and wondering why Mr. Peter Obi and Governor Alex Otti will go ahead to, back such arrangement of a caretaker committee, and that spiraled into court cases and counter court cases. So, I mean, even looking at the context of your own party, the Labour Party, you have some of these issues that people will say, well, it's meant to be a straightforward thing, right? There is a chairman, a convention was conducted, Mr. Peter Obi did not attend, the same people that were friends together, now everybody went to court and relationship has been seared in that sense. So maybe you speak to that case of your own party, the Labour Party. Is that a case of a money bag? Is that a case of interference? What exactly played out there to affect the internal party politics or democracy that you speak about?
I will only speak to the facts of what ought to be in a political system. And that's what I alluded to ab initio. Once there are laws, every laws are supposed to be respected. And those particular laws are clearly spelled out. When there is breach, it is left for the political party themselves and the leaders of the political party. Then the enforcement part of the law must to be seen to be done free and fairly to all concerned. That is the basic truth. And once that is done, you will find out we have less stress in all the political parties that you mentioned. It's not Labour Party alone. There are so many other political parties that are having challenges. But because there is a way in which those in government are not enforcing the laws, now it makes all of it look so watery and ineffective. So when there is a judgment, effect the judgment, effect the push, make sure that judgment is being made and then it's being enforced. Then we'll have a peaceful society, especially in our democratic system.
So, Dr. Tanko, at the moment, who is leading the Labour Party?
Well, the decisions of the court, like our principal, have respect for the courts. Anytime there's a pronouncement by the court, he makes sure that he respects the position of the court. So at the moment now, the position of the court is what we will respect. We will follow due diligence, and as Democrats, democracy, as I said earlier on, one of the pillars of democracy and principle is the respect of rule of law and order. And we will respect rule of law of order.
Mr. Tanko, so I don't think it's a difficult question. I'm asking for a name. Who is a chairman or lead in that sense of the party right now? That's my question, actually.
And I'm giving you an answer, a direct answer. The position of the court is what we'll follow.
So the position of the court doesn't give a name between Nenadi Usman and Julius Abure?
The position of the court is saying that certain aspect of the position is clear. So when the decision will be made by the party, it will be pronounced.
Okay. Let's take it to a guest in the U.S. So I just needed to ask you that. I needed to ask Mr. Tanko that question. So you see how, the Nigerian politics plays out when it comes to interpretation of laws. In fact, a classic case was the PDP case. The Supreme Court made a decision. Before we knew, the National Publicity Secretary said that Ode Okoye is still in charge. The court has affirmed him because part of the maybe obiter dictum or whatever, the Lord Justice has said parties have to make their own decision. On the other hand, we also saw Samayan coming out, it's Samayan, and then eventually they made their decision. So I want you to speak to the issue of multiple interpretation of judgment of court when it comes to leadership of political parties. Because in Nigeria, I can tell you for free, sometimes laughable and embarrassing.
Yeah, I think that most of the time, the court will want to defer back to the efficacy of the constitution of the party. And it is only basically because this party gained their powers from the constitution directly. And sometimes some pronouncement from the court might just contradict these fundamental rights that basically, like I said, freedom of expression, right to freedom of assembly, and all other components of being in a political party. Now, APC has found a way to create 7 levels of appellate jurisdiction within its constitution. And the exhaustive nature of these levels helps to limit the amount of cases or disputes that are being taken out of the party to the courts. And they have it all the way from the ward level to the local government, the state, zonal, they have and all the way to the National Executive Committee. And they even gave some powers to the National Executive Committee to pull cases away from lower level appellate jurisdiction so that they can resolve most of these disputes internally. And I think that may be missing in some of the smaller or other parties, in the sense that they don't have exhaustive mechanism to keep disputes within the confines of the political party. And I think that if that is the case, and for instance, even in Article 21 of the APC Constitution says that if you take a case out of to the courts without first exhausting all this mechanism, you are automatically expelled.
So just before you land on your thoughts, just as we land, we have about 30 seconds. I've seen what you articulated. Are you saying that this strong, okay, let me ask it differently. This strong position, is it because they are following, because it's the same politicians we're talking about here. Literally all of them are just, politicians have personal ideology, not political ideologies. I think we have agreed to that effect. So are you saying that because APC has not been tested out of power as a party, you know, they came as different groups to form the APC as a party. PDP has now been out of power for close to 10 years, so we can now see how they behave, how they perform. So are you saying this because they are still in power, that's why this structure seems to hold? Or this is, you feel it is going to hold even if they leave power?
I think the fear of expulsion from a party that holds power. Yes, the fact that they have power kind of encourage people to keep matters within the power. But I think that when you have so much level of mechanism like this, at some point you get resolution. And if you don't have, if it's too minimal, there is a tendency to feel cheated and say that there is a breach of your constitutional rights and you want the court to come and save you and say, hey, court, talk to me, help me out with these people. But when you have exhaustive options like this, to a certain extent, you will find a way to resolve it in-house. Right. And I think it's just a human nature thing. It's not necessarily because they have power.
There you go. Would like to thank you so much, gentlemen. But Mr. Tanko, quickly, is it true that Mr. Peter Obi is in talks to join the SDP? Former presidential candidate of the SDP said that yesterday. Is in talks to join the SDP?
As far as I'm concerned, His Excellency Peter Obi is a member of the Labour Party. It remains so until when there is any other thing that may come up. As I speak to you right now, there is going to be a meeting, possibly within the week, by the leaders of the party to make fundamental positions clear to everyone. And I think in line with the position of the Supreme Court ruling. And that, of course, will put the whole matter to rest.
So he's not in those talks. So the former presidential candidate, Mr. Adebayo, was not telling the truth. Is that what you're saying?
As I'm telling you, as far as I know, Peter Obi is a member of the Labour Party as of this morning.
Well, my question was quite clear, but we have to thank you so much, Dr. Yunus Tanko, Interim National Coordinator of the Obedient Movement Worldwide. I know these are very interesting times as we build up to 2027, but thank you for your time, as well as Mr. Oluseyi Bisiriyu, legal practitioner, who joined us from Virginia. Thank you for staying awake for this conversation. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too, sir.
We'll take a quick break now. When we return, we'll be joined by amazing women doing great stuff. Oh yes, women in business and leadership is next on the program. Stay with us.
Welcome back. We're being joined in the program by Ambassador Adeshola Onadikbe. She's the President, African Arab Women Chamber of Commerce, and the founder of Ladies in Business Magazine Global. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. It's my great pleasure to be here.
Okay. Some people have not heard about the organization. Yes. We're going to walk through that in just a moment. But one of the things we try to do in Women in Business is just try to speak to women to understand their workings, their challenges, how they are navigating this masculine world, patriarchal society in that sense. So maybe that's a good part to start that conversation with you.
Yes, yeah. I mean, thank you so much. It's my great pleasure to be here. And we women, we're actually trying so hard to make you men heard and realize that we are here to stay, though it's still been a struggle and a movement that like how we say it. And from what I undo, being a woman advocate when it comes to business, and from my introduction, I'm the publisher of Ladies in Business Magazine, where we literally share the success stories and the struggle stories of women in business globally, not just in Nigeria, in Africa, and the entire world, actually. So we use this platform to, to let them know that whatever they are doing, they can do well, and they can be more while they strive to do more. So with the magazine platform, it's been a wonderful one, and we started that like 6 years, and we extended to a global level in the United Arab Emirates, and there where we, I started the African Arab Women Chamber of Commerce, because I realized that as an African woman, from Nigeria, now based in the United Arab Emirates, makes me to have that synergy to think that how can we have a platform to to navigate and bridge the gap between the African women and the Arab women together for business, networking, collaboration, you know, investment and what have you. So that was the source of African Arab Women Chamber of Commerce, and thereby we've been using the opportunity to train women, to educate them, to bring, you know, foster business together from both regions and have, you know, of course, investments and collaborations and networking at the end of the day.
So sounds like a lot.
It is.
It is.
I don't know. Some say it's a man's world. Some say it's a woman's world. Whatever the case is, from your experience, and I'm curious to know, having told the stories of, I don't know, maybe hundreds of women or more, is there a common thread in their journey? Something that you've noticed that once you apply this thing, it's going to work for you in spite of the challenges. This thing, I've noticed that all these women seem to have it and they've applied it and it's worked for them across. But is that something like that?
Absolutely. You know, like I used to say, I don't see it as a competition where women need to really have to, you know, have that torso power with the men, because we all have a, you know, specific area of jurisdiction of whatever we're supposed to deliver in business, in family, in church, or wherever we find ourselves. You understand? That is why we are both curated to you know, to complete each other, not to compete with each other. So I'm gonna say that it will be a very decent strategy if women can literally, like I used to say, we use you men as allies where we need to make things happen. Sometimes it's not that easy. It can be very difficult. But if you're able to have proper strategy in place, knowing fully well that, like what I do in the magazine, we have a segment for men as well. I mean, we don't want to say that it's just a women's world.
Back page?
Exactly. Well, part page.
Just give them some page.
Just part page, just to have an icing on the cake, yeah? So that it doesn't look like as if it's just the women's world. Of course, it's our world. But again, we just both can't do without each other. It's vis-a-vis. We all have our part to play. And once we're able to recognize your part to play, then the sky will be your limit.
So I want to find out from you, part of your experience in what I'll call curating women and their journey.
Yes.
And from your personal experience, what mistakes are women making in a quote-unquote man's world?
It's still the same thing I've just explained right now. We have to find a way where we get the men involved.
So I want specifics. What are the mistakes?
Okay, now, for example, I'm having an event coming up. It's the She Awards, right? So we are not just making it the women thing, because the men have their own part to play as well. So if women can find a strategic way to involve the men where they are needed to perform their own duty, it will be very good, because it's not looking like as if the man is being left out, like, okay, you want to rule your world, okay, go ahead and do that, but where is my place? Then what am I supposed to do? So it becomes a power torso, and of course it's going to be like, okay, you can't do it without me, okay, go ahead and let's see how far you can manage to do it. For me, in my experience, a lot of men have really come to support me, both in Nigeria and also in the United Arab Emirates as well. So it wasn't a difficult thing for me, because I've been able to find that navigating, you know, up to really inculcate men into the platform, into the system of my operation of whatever I'm doing. So I didn't make it look like as if they are not recognized or their ego is being brushed off. You understand? At the same time, not worshiping them.
But you can't dismiss the challenges some women face that makes them combative in their posturing. That is a valid concern, isn't it?
It is huge. And sometimes I want to say it's more or less some personal sometimes. But again, in a general quote of it, we can say that women can find a way where they can, you know, use the men as allies, like I said, to, you know, to achieve whatever they need to achieve while doing their businesses. Yeah.
Fantastic. I was looking through the Forbes list, right, just to see how many women, top 20. Top 20, you have 2 women out of 20, which is commendable, right,
Absolutely.
Jeffrey? That's 10%.
Absolutely.
But you know, the affirmative action is...
We need more.
We need more. So you should have at least maybe 3, 4.
At least 10.
10?
Yes.
I like that. So it's 50-50 for you,
Exactly,
right?
10.
No, oh, that's a new affirmative action. It's no more 35, it's not 50.
It should be 50-50.
I like that, because population, after all, is 50-50.
Absolutely.
It's split 50-50 roughly between men and women. But my question, and the reason why I raised this, is the fact that some say if you want to be a successful woman, there are sacrifices you have to make in terms of family, relationship, and all of that. They always say, well, you choose one. You can't have best of both worlds. Do you agree with that? Can you have best of both worlds? Family doing great, your business doing great?
I used to say it's possible for women to achieve all, but not at the same time. Because you need to identify the time that you're raising your children and you have with the family, and maybe the children are now grown up because they're going to go afterwards. So you need to identify the time that is now meant for yourself to develop yourself, maybe to go for that, your MBA or your doctorate degree. So if you can find a way to balance it, to prioritize it at the same time, I mean, not at the same time, you understand? So at the end of the day, women can actually achieve it all, but not at the same time. It is not easy, but sometimes sacrifice has to be made, definitely, because you want to be married, to take care of the children. I mean, you are a boss in the bank, you know. I mean, all those things are not quite easy. I mean, it actually happens to me. I have to leave my banking job a couple of years back, like about 10 years ago, you know, to take care of my children because they were growing, right? But now, I mean, they're growing up. I mean, they're already growing up. My first daughter, she's 23. So I have the opportunity and the chance for me to do everything that I needed to do right now. So I think priority, you know, women should need to find a way to prioritize those things. They can still achieve everything, but not at the same time.
Quick follow-up.
Yeah.
Is it possible for you to catch up? And this is what I mean. So you leave your job, right? And you focus on family.
Yes.
So all that 10 years on your CV, you can't put 2010 to 2020, raising family, raising children, experience in changing diapers and all. I don't know if you can put it on your CV. So is it possible to catch up? After 10 years, how do you then catch up again and still do stuff, great stuff?
And again, that brought me to what I used to tell women, that you should be able to find something that is meant for you. It's not everybody that's going to be, you know, in the four walls of a business or in a company. Sometimes you should be able to divine, I mean, you know, to look for that thing that is meant for you to achieve, to do. Okay. For example, for me, I started, you know, with events business and the magazine.
When you left banking?
When I left banking.
So you were still doing something?
Exactly. You understand? But at the same time, I was able to still keep up with the family while doing that at the same time.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So affirmative action is still a struggle. Now you have raised the bar to 50%. Good luck. We wish you the best. The issue of maternity leave is another issue that some companies have really stepped up. Some countries have even done up to 6 months, 1 year, and all of that. So if there are small things in the bucket list you will need the society to put out for women to leverage on to be the best they can be, what would they be?
Well, I will really say in politics, and thank God I think women are, you know, they are actually coming up in terms of politics. I mean, we have the women president first in Namibia, and the vice president, and even in Ghana, and some other African countries, and I think we are moving on. So I think in politics, because that's the highest most level that I think women are really, really, you know, wanted, and we're not being represented, you know, appropriately. So I think in politics is a big, you know, platform for me, because that is where lots of policies and, you know, decisions and law are being made. So if women are part of such, you know, policies maker, I mean, it's really, you know, make things easier. Yeah.
All right, Ambassador Adeshola Nadikbe, President, African Arab Women Chamber of Commerce and founder of Ladies in Business Magazine Global. Thank you so much for coming to the program.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, we will take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about healthy living. A doctor will be joining us right here in our Lagos studios. Join us again.
That's just for effect, right? I think a lot of people are going through that cycle yet again, where there's just something, it seems like there's something in the air, right? There's a common cold, there's that irritation and all of that. My sneeze, by the way, is not real, okay? It's just for effect. So what exactly is going on, and how do you boost your immunity and ensure that you still are able to go about your daily activities without irritation and all of that? We're focusing on your health right now. We're joined by Dr. Love. The real name is Dr. Ade Harun, is a medical doctor and founder of Love for Health organization. Good morning.
Good morning, Kayode.
I must say, I love the outfit.
Thank you very much.
I'm trying to talk about fashion, but that's not why we're here. We're talking about our health, particularly understanding the common cold, the prevention, management, and public health awareness. Is there something in the air right now, or it's always been in the air and, you know, it's just a normal cycle of life? But more importantly, should we be concerned about what is in the air?
Thank you very much, Coyote, for this important question. Common cold is the commonest acute infection in the whole world. It is often overlooked, and many people don't really understand it. I will start by saying there are myths and there are reality about common cold. For example, people say, oh, okay, if you have common cold, or if it's cold, if the weather is cold, like if it's in the United States or in Europe, then you have common cold. No, that's a myth. So raining in Nigeria or Harmattan is not what causes the common cold.
Because it's really hot right now.
So that's a myth.
Yeah.
So in the hair, what you asked is that there are viruses, over 200 strains of viruses that cause this common cold. So common cold is a viral infection that affects the upper respiratory tract, which includes the nose and the throat. The throat is now divided into the pharynx and the larynx. So these are called the upper respiratory tract, and the virus that causes them, the commonest of all the 200, is the rhinovirus. So we have others like respiratory syncytial virus, adenovirus, and there are lots more that cause this common cold. But it is not just taking cold water, as our parents used to make us believe that, oh, you are drinking cold water, you have common cold. No, but it is a viral infection, and it's the commonest acute infection globally. In the United States, where there's statistics, between 1 to 2 billion cases of common cold. Definitely, America does not have up to 1 billion people, but cases means number of times people will report to the hospital.
So some go 3 times.
Exactly. 2 to 3 times is the average number of times someone develops common cold in 1 year. In children, it is more. It's about 6 to 10 times.
So are we going to say that this is a reality we have to live with and just manage it?
Yes, there's something called herd immunity. Herd immunity means that it's something which it's too common that the group of people in the population or group of people have this disease, so they develop natural immunity against it. Another myth is that, okay, there is a medication for common cold. That is a myth again, a fallacy. There's no doctor on earth registered that will tell you that, oh, I can treat common cold by giving you an antibiotic. That's a misnomer. There is no treatment for common cold. It's another fact.
So we'll let it take its course?
Absolutely. And the course is usually 7 to 10 days. So what we do is that we can provide palliatives or treat the symptoms or relieve the condition. For example, and I'll come back to that, symptoms of the common cold, which I would mention as we talk along.
Please go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. So symptoms of this common cold, one of it is running nose, where you see the fluid coming out of the nose. Another one is sneezing like you did. That is also another symptom of common cold. Another one is mild fever. Mild fever is a temperature between 36.7 to 37.2. It's mild. Another question again is, what's the difference between common cold and flu? It's a big one. Again, COVID is another one that came into the picture in 2019, 2020. So these are different. There's a difference between flu virus and common cold. So common cold has no treatment, but you can manage the condition. You can relieve yourself from the symptoms of common cold. For example, if you're having running nose, you can take warm water, you can gargle it, you can mix honey with it. It can help you.
Yeah.
So these are part of the ways you do it. Also, cleaning the environment. The mode of transmission of this common cold is usually through airborne. If someone sneezes and has common cold, another person is next to the person, he or she can contact common cold.
There you go.
Okay.
So it's not too extreme to keep your face masks on at this time?
Now, the question is, are we going to keep our face masks for the whole year?
No, particularly if you're, there are people who are maybe susceptible to it, people who have comorbidities, almost like we're back to COVID era, but some people choose to still put their face masks on. Is that extreme?
From my own perspective, I would say that could be extreme, because are you going to put on the face mask throughout the year? That's one question. Secondly is that even these face masks that people have been using, even during the COVID time, I was in the United States then, during the COVID throughout, and some people misuse this face mask and they could even infect themselves with other conditions with the face mask, because they take a face mask, they use it, put it up, put it in their pocket again, throw it somewhere else, and this face mask is close to your nose, so you are inhaling even different particles, allergens, viruses.
Okay. Interesting. So I want you to speak to quickly as we wind down how to prepare yourself. Right, fine, you should allow it to take its course. But I hear people say, well, what I do now is I have a solution in my fridge. Ginger, garlic, there's no onions.
Aboniki.
So it's a mixture. Lemon, honey. Okay, aboniki is for the outer part, right? So they do the internal and stuff. So how do you ensure your immunity is at that level so that when it comes, at least you go through it
in 30
stronger?
seconds.
Beautiful question. In summary is that this common cold, you just have to boost your immunity. So all these ginger, garlic, all this, I'll just take it as food or as supplements. So yes, it's good for you to eat well, vegetables, eat lots of fruits and vegetables, boost your immunity. There's a misconception that vitamin C boosts common cold, no, or it treats it, no. But I would advise everybody with common cold or anybody who wants to boost their immunity to just eat well, live healthy, and try and avoid people with common cold, although you can avoid, like your wife has common cold and you kiss, definitely you have a higher chances of developing common cold.
Dr. Love, you have to end on a lovely note. We have to thank you so much. We're speaking with Dr. Ade Harun, medical doctor, founder of Love for Health organization. Thank you for your time.
It's a pleasure, always.
So there you go. You should, by all means, find a way to ensure that you're protected, boost your immunity. But before we go on the show today, let's run you through some of the major trending issues. Jeffrey, which one catches your fancy?
I think the coronation of the Alaafin of Oyo is one of those videos, if we could catch up. So there was lots of dignitaries. And as a matter of fact, we now have him formally taking charge as far as the throne is concerned. So he's going to be there. You know, when it comes to monarchy, it's still death. So that's the video that was trending online. Perhaps some religious rites going on. I'm not sure whether they didn't want the cameras, so you can see them. You will have a better understanding of this than I do.
I think it's just what it is. And it's always beautiful to see that our culture is still strong. So wish him the very best in his reign, certainly. But guys, we also saw Anthony Joshua jogging on the streets of Nigeria.
I feel
and that was, I don't know, so it's a mixture of different things, really. You know, there's this trending video now of people doing morning routines, and this is one of it, the jogging bit. But it's good to see him at home, really, and the joy that a lot of people have. It's beautiful to see.
Is that the one that just met, are they jogging or dancing? I'm not sure what it is.
They're excited. It's Anthony Joshua, for crying out loud.
Fantastic.
Okay. This one is not really palatable, the next trending video.
Yes.
And it shows...
still in Lagos, by the way.
Yeah, still in Lagos, you know, different sides.
Well, VDM, right? Confronting a man committing open defecation. We've talked about this over and over again. So you had to confront the man. We can't show you everything, but this is what you see, especially around that area. It's quite not something to do. Anyway.
So when you hear that Lagos smells, that is why.
That is why.
It's the activity of people. Yes, the government has its role to play, but hey, we also have our role to play. So it was good to see. I wish we could have this kind of police in some parts. For example, when you're coming into Lagos, you know, that middle part of the road. But hey, that's where we anchor on the show this morning. Thank you for being a part of it. We hope as a citizen, you're intentional and you do the right things. I'm Kaido.
Don't forget, Sunrise Daily is up at the top of the hour. I'm Jeffrey Uzonga. Bye-bye.